Aye, greetings from the Philippines. Welcome back to the channel. Coffee and chat time again. As I've said in my last previous videos, I can't, till I get a proper camera and a new selfie stick, I can't really do the walk and about ones anymore, so we'll have to settle for the coffee and a chat, which seem to be doing alright in the views. I mean, maybe that's the way forward. Anyway, glorious day here. Really nice, sunny day, and quieter than usual. So I thought I'd take the opportunity to make another cheeky quick video. So, expats, the top 5 mistakes they make. Now, I'm not going to do these in any order, because depending on the personal circumstances, it's the order doesn't matter. The point is, if you fall into one of those categories, then you're proper fucked, as they say. First one, bad relationships. A lot of expats make the mistake of rushing into a relationship. They don't do their due diligence. They just see a girl, beautiful, half their age, quarter their age or whatever. They're besmitted, they're just obsessed with them, and they get married quickly. It's like the expression goes, marry in haste, repent at marry in haste, repent at leisure. I think that's the one. That's the downfall of a lot of expats. They get into a relationship, they marry a person that's not suited to them, and they don't take any precautions. They don't get a prenup and all that kind of thing, and the marriage goes south, and it destroys them, or it takes a big chunk out of them, both emotionally and financially. They end up going back to their home country because their heart's broken. They go back bitter, or they end up going back to their home country because they can't afford to, stay as an expat. And that's a common one. Bad relationships. Now, as a man who's been divorced twice, I can't tell you how to avoid it. But mine weren't bad relationships. I mean, we had good time. I don't regret. I regret the first one. I definitely don't regret the second one. So I can't tell you, there is no magic wand to avoid a bad relationship. Just don't rush into them. Don't rush into them. Take your time. I'm going to turn things around a bit here because I think the sun might be a bit too bright behind me. The next one is buying businesses. Don't too many people come to a place like the Philippines or Thailand or whatever, and they think, I'll just come here and open a business. Now, I can talk about Pattaya with a bit more authority because although I only lived in Pattaya for 6 months, I did go back there a lot, and I knew people who owned bars there. And I'm not sure the exact statistic, but something like 80% of all the bars in Pattaya go under every year. Because at the end of the day, it's a cutthroat business, and people just throw their money into bars and hotels and things when they've never done it before. Now, I'm not saying you can't, as an expat, come to a place like the Philippines or Thailand or Cambodia and make a killing in the restaurant or hotel business if you know what you're doing. I mean, if you're a restaurateur, living in London now, and you've been doing it and you've got a successful restaurant, there's no reason why you can't come to somewhere like Manila or Bangkok or whatever and have a successful business. If you're someone that's been running bars in Spain all your life or somewhere like that, I'm not so sure about the UK because that's very different to us. The point is, you know what you're doing. But so many expats just think, I'll open a bar. And they've never done it before. They don't have a clue what they're doing. And you can't actually own the business. It's very difficult to own businesses in Thailand and places like that. And I think it's the same in the Philippines, I'm not quite sure. But you have to have, generally I think it's 50% or 51% has to be in a Thai name. It's a complicated situation. But as I say, you can do it. Some people are very successful, but it's rare. So again, I mean, if you have to do a business, do something that you know about. Because if you're an English speaker, or if you're a French person or whatever, you can You know, England, you can get an online business. You can trade in Australia, you can trade in, you know, if you're a European, you can trade in the EU. You know, if you're going to do a business, aim to do something online. Aim to do something which has minimal setup costs, which doesn't have key money and all the rest of it, and that can be your business. Lots of Thai and Asian people, they would love to be able to sell into Europe as easily as you'd be able to. Same in the States. So yeah, you may well have to earn an income over here, but don't invest in something which involves a big deposit and key money and high rent and that if you don't know what you're doing. That's about as common as it is for a bad relationship to screw up an expat. The next one's property. Now that probably ties in with relationships to a certain extent, but not necessarily. I mean, you could lose your property to your spouse in any of the Asian countries, but equally you could buy some land and find out, you know, down when you built a house that it's not actually your land, it belongs to someone else, and someone else has got a right to it or a deed to it. You know, it can get very complicated and very messy. You could start a company in Thailand to own the land, but they're cracking down on that. You know, you could get a lease for 30 years with the promise of another lease after those 30 years, but there's no guarantee you're going to get that second lease. Now, there are ways around this. I mean, I can't remember the name. There is something you can do in Thailand where it's put in someone else's name. There's a channel called James Abroad. He explains it well on there. If I can think of it, I might put it in the description down below. But so I'm not saying don't buy property here or in any Asian country. I'm just saying think about why you would want to. And if you determine that you want to, then take time, get a good solicitor, don't skimp on that, do a lot of checks. Now, obviously in the Philippines, and I say obviously, I think a few Asian countries, I know in the Philippines, I know in Pattaya, or Thailand, I know in Cambodia, Westerners, you can own condos. As long as a certain percentage of the occupants of the apartments are Thai nationals, then Westerners can have leases. You can never own land in Thailand, but you can own condos. Now, I'm not sure what advice or view I have of doing that, because I'm pretty sure from what I've heard you'll never make money on condos. You'll never get your money back, and they're very difficult to sell. So a lot of expats will tell you, don't buy a condo, you know, you'll end up losing 10% of the price or whatever. But equally, if you buy a condo and you live there 10 years, you may lose 10% of the price, but you haven't been paying rent for 10 years. You know what I mean? So I mean, I've not gone into that in any, because I never felt the need to. But yeah, I'm not so sure if it's a good idea to buy a condo in Thailand or not. I've met a lot of people who say don't do it, avoid it with a barge pole. But equally, I've met a few people who've said it's the best thing they've done because they've saved so much money on rent. One thing I would suggest though is if you're buying a condo over there, buy one that's already built. Don't go for these ones where they, you know, you're funding the project in advance and they're going to build it, whatever. I mean, it may work out for you, but oh, wobbly, bang the table there. Sorry about that. But you hear so many stories about the timeshares in Spain and projects and economies collapsing out. So I'd never do that. I'd never do that. The reason I've not thought about buying a condo recently is I don't like living in the expat, you know, destinations really. Pattaya's not for me. Bangkok's not for me. Chiang Mai kind of, but I tend to prefer the places I live to be more rural, more Thai, less expats, and they don't have condos there. And realistically, I'm glad I didn't, because if I had done, like, you know, if there had been one in Petrobum or whatever, it would be a pain now. Because you're not going to make money renting them out. I mean, don't go to somewhere like Pattaya, buy a place and think you're going to rent it out. If you're going to live there permanently and you're staying and you've got a retirement visa, then maybe it's a good idea, maybe it's not. But definitely a bad idea if you're going to rent it out, you know, in my opinion. But I'm no expert. I'm just giving you, you know, some tips. Now, this next one, oof, I'm guilty of it now. I never thought I would be, and it's worrying me big time. A lot of expats can't get out of holiday mode. If you're living in Thailand or like now I'm now living in the Philippines, I'm living here. I'm not on holiday. If I was going to go away somewhere for like, I mean, I went to one of my greatest friends, went to his wedding in Key West in November last year. It was a holiday. I was smashed, too smashed. I'm embarrassed really, because I shouldn't have drunk that much. Drunk more than anyone else. But I was in holiday mode, yeah. And that's okay for a holiday. You know, that's it. But when you're living in a place, one of the reasons I got out of Pattaya, that whole bar girl scene, and that's not for me, but the trouble with places like Pattaya is you go down to a bar and, you know, all the guys there, they're so happy to be there because they're doing their sex tourism or whatever they're doing, and they've been looking forward to this. So there's a vibe, and they're spending money, so all the Thais are happy. And you go down there and you have sessions, and it's just hard not to. So hard to sit in an apartment there and think, I'm not going to go down and have a few beers. Which is one of the reasons why I prefer living in the provinces, because then I know I'm in leaving mode. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I was able to, and I had responsibilities there. Like, you know, I had a partner's daughter to take to school in the mornings and I was happy about that, because that kept me from, you know, slipping into that. Because, I mean, maybe you could afford to stay in holiday mode. I probably could in Pattaya, but a lot of people can't afford to stay in holiday mode, so they end up bankrupting themselves and have to go home. But the reason it bothered me so much was killing me. You know, smoking too much, drinking too much. You know, staying there would have knocked 10, 20 years off my life. I'm 100% certain. Now, when I came to the Philippines and I first saw Dumaguete, there was no danger of being in holiday mode there. I mean, I was going out a few times, but wasn't the place for me. And I thought I had self-discipline. But since I come to Sikihor, I'm in holiday mode. I've had a great time, but I'm starting to worry. I'm starting to question whether I'm becoming an alcoholic. To the extent that I'm going to go back to Dumaguete next month, and I'm going to come back to Sikihor, and then I've already booked a place for 6 weeks. My plan was to stay there for 6 weeks, and then and in that 6 weeks find a nice apartment somewhere to rent on the beach. But now I'm thinking I'm going to come back and I'm going to see how I go those 6 weeks. Because if I can't switch off party mode, then I've got to find another island. I can't stay like this. They had an election here yesterday, so for 48 hours it started on Saturday night at 12 o'clock. There was no alcohol, and I was looking forward to it, because we only found out short notice. None of the bars and that knew. It was only 10 o'clock the police come in and said as of 12 o'clock that was it, no alcohol for 2 days. But then last night in the room, I went out, had a nice dinner, but I just wanted to go out and drink. I just wanted to go out and, you know, party per se, you know what I mean? But I've never had that problem, not for like 6, 7 years. I had it for the first few months in Thailand, had it for a little bit in Bangkok, but I calmed it down. So I'm hoping that when I come back in December, I'll have got this month out in my system and I can calm down. But it's this is a tourist place. It's underdeveloped, but it's a tourist place. You know, you've got a couple of old men bars where the locals go. Maybe that's what I'll have to start doing. You know, they just drink the cheap beer all day. But I'm going out to... Anyway, I won't bore you with what I'm doing, but yeah, that's another one. You've got to get in your head you're not on holiday. And if you tell me how to do that, then I'll be very grateful. And then the last one is adopting the culture. You've got to try and adopt the culture wherever you are. You're not in the UK or US or whatever anymore. And if you don't try and adopt the culture, if you don't try and learn some of the language, like, I mean, here the language isn't so much of a problem, but I am trying to learn some Filipino, because you've just got to. If you want to, like, if you just want to live in a place like this because of the climate, and you've got your girlfriend, but you still want to live a USA lifestyle, for example, then you can do it in places like Dumaguete. I think that's the attraction of Dumaguete. They've got shopping malls there, they've got fast food restaurants or whatever. I can see it in Manila and things like that, but I just think, myself personally, you'd be happier if you tried to embrace the culture of the country that you're in. But again, you don't have to. It's different people. But I've met a lot of people who just turn around and said, like in Thailand, like they've just had enough. You know, particularly up in the villages, that they, you know, they're fed up with the Thai people and they can't trust them and they can't. And you think, well, it's because you don't integrate with them. You know what I mean? Or they're fed up. Because where I was living up in Pejuram, very few people could speak English. So you either had to learn Thai or you just stayed with your girlfriend and you had expat circles of friends. And you had a lot of people who were just thrown together, expats. I was never part of that circle. I never tried to be. And don't doubt they wanted me. I was a lot younger then. They were like all of a certain age. I mean, I said hello to them by the swimming pool and that kind of stuff. But I knew some people who were kind of in it. And they'd have flare-ups all the time in that little group, like they'd fall out over that. Because they were just stuck together, a group of like, you know, 10, 15 of them or whatever. The only thing they had in common was, well, they were expats and they didn't want to mix with the Thais, you know what I mean? So it just made tension. A few of them got pissed off and went back to their home countries. I think they would have a better time if they, because again, it gives you a sense of purpose. That's what it's like. What I'm doing the vlogging now. You've got to have things to do, and more positive things, and you know, just trying to recreate your culture in another country. But I think that's on the list. That's probably the lowest one, because some, I mean, I met a lot of Americans who've been here for a few years. They clearly are intimidated. They clearly have no real intention of, you know, eating Filipino food, trying to learn the language, that kind of thing. It's not them. So I mean, that's a little one. The top four though, they are big. Be careful who you marry and what relationship you get into. Be careful about buying land and investing in, you know, condominium projects and that kind of thing. Don't get involved in a business that you know nothing about. And if there is nothing you know anything about, trade online and, you know, get an online, what do they call them? Businesses, open key business, whatever, with minimal investment. I mean, there are things you can do online or whatever. Or teach English. I mean, I don't know. The point is, there are ways you can earn money in these countries without putting, you know, 50 grand into a bar or something like that. And if you can't, and I tell you what, I'm going to add another one to this top 5 list. And this is probably one of the most important ones. So I might have to make the old thumbnail the top 6 things about the Philippines. Go home when you've been here too long. Do not stay beyond your means. You see a lot of people, expats, they've hit hard times. They've run out of cash, or they're running out of cash. Get out then while you can. Do not stay past that point, because it's not pretty. I've seen it a million times. They just stay, they borrow money from other expats, and then after a while the expats are like, nah, piss off, and that money is gone. They don't have enough money to get back to the UK, so they overstay their visas. They end up living rough, maybe staying at a temple or whatever. They end up getting arrested. Is this bloke trying to fuck my video up or what? Anyway, yeah, so they end up getting arrested. Then you couldn't script it, could you? They end up and they end up on Skid Row. And the thing about the Philippines, I think it's the thing about Thai, I think it's the same in the Philippines. If you can't pay off your pay the overstay, they won't let you leave the country. So when you end up getting stuck here, and they'll arrest you every so often and put you inside for a few months, and they'll let you back out again, and you'll be homeless. And at the end of the day, you're desperate for someone to help you out and pay you. And the chance of an expat doing that, because I've seen it so many times, you know, if you haven't got family. I had a friend, well, I won't go on, because I don't know what you can hear with this video, but those are my thoughts for the day. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope that didn't screw it up and I have to do the whole thing again. Thanks for watching. If you like the channel, subscribe, bang a like. If you've got any comments, you think I'm talking crap, tell me. Don't leave comments though about how I can't, you know, video, or I'm no good at this. I know I'm not. Well, you believe what you want. I mean, they're all comments, but I make no illusion of it. I say raw, dodgy camera work vlogs and that. You know, I ain't claiming to be David Bailey. You know, it's yeah, I know they are raw, unscripted. They are what they are. Anyway, thanks for watching. Be lucky.